and stuff like that. So yeah, I still got some music from that.
Do you think that owning and operating a studio helps your songwriting ability and the talent and exercise of laying down vocal tracks? Do you think that also operating the software helps you in that regard?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. One, it's cheaper. You know,
Right.
you can experiment. Um, you don't because and going back to the days of when we were in the band, we're going to the studio and we're paying to be there. So a lot of times you got to kind of know what you want to do going in prior to going in because time is money and you're paying by the hour.
Mhm.
Whereas having your own, you cannot know where you're going to go initially and find your way as you go because you've already done the heavy lifting as far as cost is concerned. You have the equipment. So at that point, it's just a matter of time and
That's true.
figuring it out. Yeah. So, um, but at the same time, the cons I would say would be a lot of times I'm doing a lot of recordings alone. So there's nobody to really just bounce ideas off of, get feedback from until you have like a finished product. So that can be a little challenging for you simply because you know, having input can be very helpful in this process.
Well, and that was one of the things I wanted to talk about was the different positions that people take inside the studio.
Mhm.
Like I was listening to a podcast the other day with Rick Rubin,
Mhm.
and he was talking about working with a band, and they would go into the studio for weeks at a time and just kind of come up with the sound and write the lyrics, and then he would help turn it into the songs that we heard on the radio. That's what made him famous because he has his
Mhm.
own style, right? Like if you're doing it by yourself and you don't have those other people like the engineers and the producers, there's a lot of hats that you're having to fill. Does that, and I would assume it does, but over time maybe get better. Does that hinder that recording process, right? Because you've got so many things that you're having to keep on your brain all at once, and then being creative on top of that has just got to be tiresome.
Definitely. Definitely. But I go back to a conversation that you and I had a few years ago, to where we were putting together my son's project.
Hmm.
And I remember um, we were down to the visual parts of it where we were doing the music video. And I remember you calling me and you were like, you know, it's a lot of work. I'm getting overwhelmed. My brain is here, there, here, there, here, there. And I remember saying to you, you're trying to eat a cow. It's like you're taking two slices of bread, putting one slice on the back of the cow, the other slice on the front of the cow, and you're trying to bite into it. And I
How
was
else
like,
do you eat a cow?
you break it down and make sandwiches out of that shit.
Right.
I was like, don't eat the cow, eat some hamburgers.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So just break it down. Because I think we had shot 3 music videos and you were trying to edit them all at the same time.
I don't always make wise choices.
And you were like, man, I'm so confused right now. And I'm so overwhelmed. And I'm like, yo, stop trying to eat the fucking cow, man.
Right. That's true.
But you got it immediately when I said, you're like, oh, okay. And then everything started to flow smooth after that and whatnot.
Right.
So yeah, I have to wear a lot of hats, but I also I do my best to not put the cart before the horse. If production is what I'm doing, then that's what I'm doing. I don't produce and then be like, oh, that sounds good. Let me try to lay a vocal here. No, I'll produce first. Or if I'm writing, I'll write first and whatnot. And I may tickle the ivories and stuff as I'm writing just to get melodies and harmonies and stuff like that. But whatever process I'm in at the moment, that's what I stick to until it's time to move to the next phase. And I think that's the way that I prevent from getting overwhelmed.
Hmm,
Just take it step by step.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. So, like mentioning this interview that I listened to with Rick Rubin
Mhm.
and him talking about working with the band. How does an artist? I guess the song just becomes more natural because how does an artist have that other ear in the room? You know, like I know you've talked about working with producers in New York before.
Mhm.
When you're working on a song, you don't have that other person to go, "Hey, why don't you try it this way?" or "Hey, why don't you try it that way?" You just record it as you have heard it in your head, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
So, h- do you when you work with these artists that are in another state, producers, do you or maybe you just have friends, do you play the songs and go, "Hey, check this out. What do you think? Give me some feedback," or does it just this is how I recorded it. This is the song that they're going to hear.
I think it could be a combination of both. Um, I have like three three musical influences that I really respect in my life. And as I'm making records, they're always in the back of my mind. I'm always thinking that is this something that he's gonna appreciate? You know what I mean? Am I making a record that if I play it for this guy, he's gonna be like, that shit's fire. You know what I mean? So even though I'm not talking to them as I'm producing the records, their impact on my musical life was so great to where I just always want to be pleasing to them, even though they're not necessarily in the session with me. It's like it's kind of like a what would Jesus do type of deal. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? What would my man's do? If I played this, what is gonna be his response? Am I gonna blow him out the water? Or is he gonna be like, man, you gotta go back to the drawing board?
mhm.
So there's always that thing in the back of my mind to where I want to please these guys because they're good at what they do, you know. And if I can present something to them that they'll appreciate, in my mind, I think, the rest of society would at least appreciate it, at least a little bit, you know.
What advice would you give for like a musician who's just at home
It's
just
the peanut butter magic.